In June of 2019, a new restaurant opened up in Toronto. Overnight, the building was transformed from a disused laundromat into the world's first Garfield-themed pizza restaurant selling bright orange Garfuccinos, big cow lasagnas, and even Garfield-shaped pizzas and chocolate bars. The name of this restaurant was GarfieldEATS, and it quickly became infamous not only in Toronto but worldwide for its bizarre marketing, poor food, and unhinged public relations. How did GarfieldEATS come to be, and how did it crash and burn so hard? Well, today let's take a deep dive into the truly bizarre rabbit hole that is GarfieldEATS. Before we get into things, I'd just like to give a huge thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. If you've watched my videos before, you know that Skillshare is a returning sponsor and I'm always so incredibly excited to be able to work with them. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes on pretty much every topic ever, from painting to filmmaking to cooking to health and fitness to video editing to animating and literally everything in between. Lately I've been really into Leah Goran's illustration and inspiration, keeping a sketchbook, because I haven't kept a sketchbook in a long time and hers are absolutely amazing, so it's really inspired me to get back into it. It's not just art and illustration though. If you can think of it, there's a class for it, from t-shirt creation to houseplant care to logo design and much more. I also add this every time I work with Skillshare, but if you're looking to get into making YouTube videos at all, Skillshare has a ton of super cool videos on filmmaking, script writing, editing, and all things video creation. Skillshare has classes for complete beginners, hobbyists, experts, and everyone in between, so I hope to see you over there so we can do some learning together. The first 1,000 people to use the link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare Premium, so you can start exploring thousands of fun and inspiring classes today. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and now let's get on with the story of GarfieldEATS. GarfieldEATS was a Garfield-themed food delivery network and app that originally launched in May of 2018 in Dubai. Obviously a play on Uber Eats, GarfieldEATS similarly had an app where customers could order the Garf-themed food and it would be delivered straight to their doorstep. Delivery workers even rode custom Garfield scooters, boiler suit and helmet included. Not gonna lie, I would pay a high price for one of these suits. Information on its reception in Dubai is fairly scarce, but we can either assume that it did really well or the founder just had a ton of money to burn, since GarfieldEATS soon went on to launch in locations like Ontario, England, and Ireland. The GarfieldEATS YouTube channel also posted this cursed video in 2018 featuring Jim Davis himself advertising the restaurant. It's telling that just over half the video's runtime is spent with Jim Davis just rambling on about the origins of Garfield and his childhood, completely unrelated to GarfieldEATS, but he does bring up a few interesting points. Firstly, that the GarfieldEATS app is intergaging, a buzzword that self-described serial entrepreneur founder Nathan Masry invented as a cross between entertaining and engaging. And secondly, and this has been pointed out by critics, the GarfieldEATS packaging is advertised as eco-friendly and able to be repurposed. But that's really great. Why would people be criticizing that, you may ask? Well, it's because you're meant to repurpose these pizza boxes into tissue holders. I feel like most tissues already come in a box. Are you meant to buy loose tissues? Also, I saw a lot of people complain that once they made the tissue box, it was completely useless because it used to be a pizza box, so it was covered in oil and cheese. I know this is a really specific point, but it's just one of many small things that just don't make sense in this situation, and the rabbit hole only gets deeper from here. GarfieldEATS' first and last physical storefront was opened on the 21st of June 2019, and the restaurant very quickly became a topic of contention not only among those who lived in Toronto, but among, well, everyone. When you think about it, it's a pretty strange concept. While Garfield is pretty popular online, basically as like a meme, in the real world, Garfield isn't really a super relevant IP. It's not like Marvel or Disney or something that's gonna draw in crowds by the dozens, but nevertheless, Nathan Masry banked all his money on unnaturally orange Garf-shaped pizzas and lasagnas. The outside of the storefront was painted orange with the founder's favorite Garfield catchphrase, "Love me, feed me, don't leave me." It's worth noting that this quote is incorrect, though. He supposedly changed it because Jim Davis told him to never use the word never in marketing. I feel like maybe Jim Davis should have also told him to make the logo a little bit bigger on the sign. Nathan Masry puts this quote on everything, including his own original YouTube docu-series, which was, quote, inspired by Quibi. I don't think that phrase has ever been spoken before. We'll get to this docu-series later, as personally it's one of the most baffling and bizarre elements to this whole story, but for now let's get back to the restaurants. So GarfieldEATS was receiving a ton of of buzz online. There were photos of the guy in a Garfield fursuit that would stand outside of the store, the piles and piles of old unused merch that Disney shoved into the store in hopes of getting rid of it, and of course the unsettlingly orange cuisine. The menu included, of course, lasagna, Garfield's favorite food, pizza slathered with Garfield's special sauce, and bright orange Garfuccinos. Keep in mind they did not sell soda, which I believe is the universal accompaniment to pizza. They only sold orange juice, orange coffee, and smoothies. Frozen lasagna and coffee sounds like a recipe for indigestion. Aside from the odd menu choices, the food itself wasn't reviewed very favorably, in fact quite the opposite. So we live in Toronto and just got access to the monstrosity of Garfield Eats, so of course our friends ordered a Garfield Garita and a Garnivore. Both were utterly repulsive and smelled like death. The pizza wobbles in a way that can only be described as ominous and unsettling. Also, the Garfield Garita was a shitty cheese pizza, nothing like a margarita, and the Garnivore was just a nightmare to behold. The sauce is a horrifying baby food orange and tastes nothing of tomatoes and possibly smells worse than anything else. Our entire D&D group felt horrible afterwards, so our DM ordered real pizza and we popped Tums like candy. We did it for the meme and it was not worth it. I would read you more reviews, but reviews for the actual storefront are scarce because A, it's not around anymore so all the Google reviews are gone, and B, even when they were up, the founder would take down negative reviews and post fake 5-star ones. He often brings up a story about how someone left a 1-star review and said to make a Bugs Bunny restaurant instead of a Garfield restaurant, and how he had to pay top dollar for an SEO agency to remove that one review. So this isn't some false defamatory claim, he's openly admitted to doing this. That same article also includes the wonderful quote, "And someone else also from Bugs Bunny on Google Review. That's why I wrote an article called Google Reviews Destroy Young Entrepreneurship. Check it out on Google. Just Google the article, Google Reviews Destroy Young Entrepreneurship." In general, the food was described as cheap, bland, and disturbingly orange, though in more severe cases actively repulsive, emanating a foul odor, and even harmful for human consumption. To be fair, I don't want to over-exaggerate and say it was all bad, as plenty of people found their meals satisfactory, but overall the reception was fairly negative. Many people found the physical storefront to be strange as well, since there were no tables and chairs, and customers would have to take their meals home or to the park to eat them. It seemed for the most part that the storefront served as a dumping ground for Disney to get rid of their old unused Garfield movie merchandise, since they recently acquired rights to the company that owned the movie and probably had a warehouse full of freaky CGI Garf shirts to hawk off. But the food wasn't the only problem that customers had with Garfield Eats. Since the company started as a food delivery network, naturally it had its own app where customers could order the food to their doorsteps. Sounds simple enough, but you're forgetting that this isn't just an app, it's an engaging mobile experience. Presumably because the founder wanted Garfield Eats to be under the tech company label, the app had AR games and Garfield episodes available to play and watch while you ordered in the app, with some being locked behind a paywall. There was an in-app currency called Pause, a constant audio track which supposedly couldn't be turned down or off, and goupons. Alongside pizza and lasagna, you could also order Garfield movie box sets and comic books with your order. Also, this is a side note, but apparently someone went into the store and tried to buy the big $300 Garfield, but they turned them down and told them it was for serious collectors only. Ouch. Before we move on to the downfall of Garfield Eats, I'd just like to list off some miscellaneous oddities. In July of 2020, they issued a confusing press release where they urged failing restaurants and ghost kitchens to flip their businesses into Garfield Eats, presumably trying to expand their brand like a McDonald's chain or something. This press release also contains the bold quote, "The main revenue generator that drives the food sales are the merchandise. No other restaurant like Garfield can appeal to the customer in regard to merch, which brings the average ticket sale to $55 rather than $15 like McDonald's and other traditional fast food chains from the 50s. That time, fellow Garfield enthusiast Quentin Reviews brought the giant Garfield plush, was mailed a bag of sand instead, had a nightmarish time trying to get the plush back, and then had a press release written about him where they called him Quentin Reviewer." From Reddit user Quantum Fireball, quote, "The descriptions for the french fries include rich with half your daily vitamin C intake, magnesium, copper, and iron. 1 potato a day keeps Garfield closer today." Despite claiming everything is so healthy, they list nutritional information with fat content curiously omitted. There was a red carpet opening for the Dubai store where they introduced tech company ideas such as Garfield Eats drone delivery service. And lastly, Nathan Masry had planned to launch Garfield Eats in 200 locations by 2025. While you process all that, let's move on to the downfall of Garfield Eats. Buckle in. On Friday the 22nd of May 2020, employees found themselves physically locked out of the Garfield Eats store by the landlord, presumably over a rent dispute of some kind, almost immediately after a press release was posted to the Garfield Eats Twitter account. Immediate release. Unempathetic landlord locks our favourite cartoon-themed restaurant during COVID-19. A Canadian landlord destroys young entrepreneurship. May 20th, Garfield Eats, world's first Garfield-themed restaurant known for Garfield-shaped pizzas, big lasagnas and Garfuccino coffee in Toronto, with a pop-up store at 995 Bloor Street West that has turned into a nightmare for the beloved cat and the young founder Nathan Masry, who is also a social media influencer in entrepreneurship with over 115,000 followers and advocate against homelessness. Garfield has entertained the world for 41 years, and a heartless landlord has shown no form of appreciation to the beloved cartoon. Naturally, the fans cried out in outrage, and after an outpouring of support and a lengthy 4-hour dispute, Garfield Eats was reopened. On the topic, Nathan Masry wrote, quote, "The only weapon I have is the Garfield fans. When I speak, the whole world listens." This kerfuffle was reported on by many news outlets, as the restaurant had become a pretty popular meme and source of entertainment for those following the drama online. However, despite all the support from the fans, it wasn't enough to save the restaurant from its tyrannical landlord. On November 12th, one of the darkest days in Canadian history, Garfield Eats issued a press release revealing that the Toronto storefront would be shutting down. Garfield Eats closed its storefront last Monday. We hate Mondays anyway, but aggressively continues with its e-commerce operations, selling merchandise and frozen Big Cow lasagnas, only which you can throw in the oven anything. Removing all other menu items and specializing in lasagna, one popular product everyone loves, so is Garfield since 1978. No landlord can take that recipe away from us. Who needs another brick and mortar anyways? No one's looking to open up, but rather work digitally and smarter. Nathan Masry also wrote on the topic, quote, "We have always paid the rent and ready to disclose bank statement and proof of transfers made to the landlord since the lockdown in March 2020, but he wanted more and more. He is simply greedy after we updated his entire filthy restaurant." Garfield fans across the internet mourned together, their favourite restaurant / meme now nothing but a distant memory. Summing up the existence of the restaurant pretty well, Ayla Oakes wrote on medium.com, quote, "Perhaps the biggest problem with his business model was the market segments it targeted. Though its signage and colour scheme don't hint at anything more than a novelty store, the rest of its branding spreads itself far too thin. Garfield Eats is very proud of its farm-to-table ingredients, its charitable efforts, and its delivery service. If Garfield Eats wants to be a delivery business, it should focus on doing that well. If it wants to be a health food store, it should brand accordingly. If it wants to be a tourist attraction, it should place its store in the vicinity of tourists. I can't imagine there's much overlap between Garfield fanatics, health nuts, children, and Blorcourt Village locals." True to his word, however, Nathan Masry kept Garfield Eats running in app form as he had done for years prior. To this day, it's still available in a few select locations, and Strange Aeons even made a video where she tried out the Big Cow lasagna from the app, and it certainly looked... well, it certainly looked. But our fearless leader, Nathan Masry, youngest ever Garfield licensee, owner of the world's first Garfield orange suit, and creator of Garfield's special sauce, was not gonna take this lying down. He had a desire, nay, a duty to engage the public. Enter Scooby-Doo Eats. Yes, that's right. After the closure and subsequent fade into obscurity of Garfield Eats, the founder started another licensed cartoon food service, which was basically just Garfield Eats with different packaging. He had an identical suit made in Scooby-Doo colors, repackaged the same Big Cow lasagna meal, and basically kept all the branding the same. To accompany the product launch, he released a YouTube video titled The Official Scooby-Doo Eats Launch, featuring guests such as a Velma cosplayer from TikTok and cartoon reviewer Phantom Strider. I don't know. So the licensed Character Eats franchise is still alive and well, despite the fact that I don't know who in the year 2021 would spend like up to $50 on a Scooby-Doo / Garfield Eats frozen meal delivery. This all leads to one final burning, baffling, confusing, totally bizarre question. What the hell was this? Who even is the founder? Was this all real, or was this some sort of elaborate marketing stunt or psychological experiment? Well, let's talk about it. The question of whether or not Nathan Masry and Garfield Eats is satire or not is one that troubles me deeply. Revisiting that Quibi-inspired docu-series of his, it's hard to shake the feeling that his entire persona and media presence is satire, at least within this video. He openly treats his employees like complete shit, forgets their names, there's this running gag where he's all hyped up and obsessed with Garfuccinos, he goes on rants about having to pay his employees minimum wage. It all feels like an episode of The Office or something. The entire thing feels totally scripted and so unbelievably on the nose that it has to be parody, and the same thing goes for a lot of his media appearances. He says all these super outlandish and silly things, and his entire persona feels like some sort of cartoon villain, and yet there's no way this is all satire. The man really is a Garfield licensee who owns multiple locations throughout the globe, and for a short time he genuinely did manage the Garfield-eats storefront. He's been doing this for years and has never dropped the act or let the mask slip, and that's going pretty far for a satire character. I asked Quentin Reviews, who has personally spoken to Nathan on multiple occasions, whether he believed it was a parody, and he didn't think so. From what I've heard, he likely funded his businesses through his incredibly rich father's money, and while he managed to snag a licensing deal with Paws Inc., Viacom and Nickelodeon have been far less enthusiastic about the whole deal. They forbade him to open any more physical stores after the Toronto one shut down, and they apparently regularly ghost him to the point where he put out the Garfield smile masks without any permission because they never responded to his request to get them approved for sale. He's basically gone totally rogue, and for whatever reason none of the companies associated with Garfield have been able to do anything about him, possibly because of some sort of contract. The founder has also posted some really very not good QAnon-y and denial-y posts, which I won't get into, but obviously that shit is ridiculous and harmful and very not good. Please get vaccinated. It's all of these elements that make me so confused about him. Despite the fact that I think he plays up his character in some videos, I struggle to believe that this guy could play this complex satirical parody character for years to the point where he's writing books and opening new licensed businesses in character. I think he's genuinely like this, and that confuses me most of all. How could any of the companies connected to Garfield tolerate all of this happening when in the span of just a single year he's made the brand look like a complete joke? Well, that's a question that I don't know whether we'll ever get the answer to. This topic leaves me with so many questions, so I really want to know what you guys think. Have you ever actually ordered from Garfield-eats, and if so, what was it like? Do you think that Nathan Masry is secretly some marketing genius and that Garfield-eats was just an elaborate marketing stunt? Or is he a very strange man haphazardly running a poorly managed and poorly conceptualized Garfield restaurant which failed because of its rancid bright orange carnivore pizzas? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Before I sign off, I'll read out a poem that Nathan wrote dedicated to Viacom that he posted on his Instagram story a short while ago. Oh my Viacom, at 27, my dream started with Jim Davis. It was an orange life full of daisies. I opened Garfield-eats to take it from west to east, but my dear Viacom, you rehomed the fat cat, leaving me out in cold, with Odie and the fat cat, along with 400 licensees, not knowing what our destiny will be for our proud restaurant indeed. Oh my Viacom, our land monster made headline news, the virus left Garfield-eats with no clues. Rather than to pack our bags and move on with our rules, you can hear the fans' cries and their eyes full of tears. Jim Davis told me it will be okay. Hang in there with the cat and don't quit, okay? I said, okay Godfather, I trust you like my own father. Oh my Viacom, finally you gave me what I need today. Indeed, what an orangey blessing day. You made movies I love, you raised me up, you believe in me, like no other. Oh my Viacom, this time love me, feed me, don't leave me, and I shall make you proud worldwide. And don't forget, I am your youngest #Garfield licensee, winky face. Take care of me at youth. I'll take care of you in your golden years. Thank you guys so much for watching, I really appreciate it. This topic is one that I've been wanting to cover for a long time, obviously, Garfield fan. It was kind of inevitable, but honestly this is one of the most confusing ones I've covered. I have so many unanswered questions, and this whole thing is just so strange. I can't believe it's an actual canon thing in the timeline of Garfield that happened, and I don't know what to think. Is it real? Is it fake? I don't know. That's why I want you guys to let me know what you think. Thank you so much as always to the wonderful Skillshare for sponsoring me. Thank you to you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye! Thank you so much to my Garfield overlords over on Patreon. Xavier Araujo, Tyson, Trebizond, The Furby Librarian, Sophie Skidder, Simon, SHSL Sunsun, Sheriff Whiskey, Samsung Account, Red Meth, Pom, Missy Pendragon, Kimono Myjiro, Jordan Nielsen, John Leach, Joe Bradshaw, Jesse Chisholm, Helm Hamburger Hand, Grip Gunderson, Finley, Dozo Blint, Doug, Dana Homegardner, Chicory, Charlie B, Brianna Robinson, Boysenberry Switchblade, Astrian Vortex, Arcantilus, and Agarifin. Thank you guys so much for supporting me as usual. If you want to join these guys over on Patreon, the link will be in the description, and yeah, thank you so much for the support, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!